Hello again, this is UML Operator. Okay, welcome back. If you haven't watched Sparx EA UML Effective Use Cases Part 3.1, I recommend that you go and watch that before picking up here. Otherwise, you can give it a shot, go through this, and hopefully you can follow. In building effective use cases, we're actually going to demo doing what we talked about in the previous video. All right, I'm back. And what I've done for each one of these is I have completed the template, our so-called prose essay, for each one of these use cases. And I'll step through them briefly as we're going through. So this is the manage user space. We're going to go ahead and select it. At the package level in notes, I basically explained what we're doing here. We're going to inventory the use cases that are in here. We ran a baseline, so we can hit Control, Alt, and B. We ran a baseline on this before we got started, and let's look at show differences. So what it's doing is it's going through and it's looking at everything we've done. So we made changes to login, and it's just telling us everything that we've done. You could certainly double click on notes and it'll show you the diff from where we started to where we are and that kind of thing. So you can see the changes as you're progressing over a day or hours or weeks on the work that you're doing. Now, using the same template at the package level here, manage users, we're going to hit F8 to bring up our report generator dialog box. Here we go. We're going to use the template that I created. And again, very simple template. You want to do it yourself before I run the video. This is pretty much it. Went in there and checked package, nothing else. I went in and checked elements, nothing else. Well, child elements, because I want to cycle through. But again, I'll explain all of this when we get into the reporting video. And I certainly want to cycle through child packages in the package. All right, so let's go ahead and run this. So go ahead, I'm going to close this. We're going to hit F8 again. We're at the level, the package level we want to report on. You can always change your mind here. And we'll talk about that in reporting video. And we're going to go to this destination. Let's go ahead and hit generate and look at our report now. Hit view, because we're going to view it inside Sparx. So now you can see, hey, login. We have our actor goal here, context of the use, and then we've populated the template. All right, did the same thing with create customer, view accounts, all the way down. All of them are summary level. I've got them checked. Summary level, I always start at summary level, and in just a moment I'm going to explain drilling down to these other levels if you want to. All right, so what is a summary level use case? It is pretty much what we just did here. So it's a high level but concise and generalized representation of the interactions between the actor, and that could be humans and machines, and the system under consideration. So it provides an overview of the main functionalities or features of the system without going into detailed steps. So that's just what we did here, summary level, and it's concise and it's generalized as it steps through what login represents at this level. So what is a user goal level use case? And the best way to state it is that it focuses on specific goals and objectives that the user wants to achieve when interacting with a system. So it goes down to a little bit deeper level than the summary level, in that it emphasizes the functionalities or features of the system that are relevant to achieving the goal, but it's not getting down into the level of implementation details, the low-level technical and implementation details, which we would handle within the sub-function. And typically when you get into the user goal level, you're getting to more abstraction. You might be getting into activity diagrams, sequence diagrams, that are composite to this. It allows you to drill down from the summary level, like for instance, and we'll show you in a later session, but if you have login, you can drill down into registration. Registration would be a good example of a sub-function to register the user. while something like monitoring security or monitoring login would be a user goal level, and you can drill down into that level of abstraction as we're going down. But that'll make more sense as we're getting into the levels of use cases. But as I stated, I always start at the summary level. Just start there, keep it simple, short and concise, give a high level view of what you want to accomplish within the system with the various actors, and then you can expand from that when time and intelligence permits that. All right, let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is hit Alt-Enter and open up dialog box for login. So we have dialog box for use case login. Move this right here, and we're going to select scenarios, right? First thing we're going to do is we're going to go down our list because we did bullet out the main success scenario. And I'm going to hit Control-C and copy this. Matter of fact, let me take it all the way down to the extensions. Don't have to do this, but I like to. And we're going to copy that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to select scenarios. And I already wrote reuse corporate standard login. And I am going to paste that scenario right there, main success scenario, and then some extensions, right? Then what we're going to do is in basic path, select structured editor, right? So as soon as I select that, warning of unsaved, go ahead and save, yes, there we go. So you can see I've got notes over on the right here. I'm going to scroll down, main. I'm able to look at the main success scenario and the extensions, right? So the first one is the user lands on the home page, right? So I'm going to present home page, just something like that, right? You see that the system is referencing the actor. Then the next one is the user triggers a login. So user triggers login. Now, there's a couple of ways to do this. With a summary level, they might be going into ordering where you're required to authenticate prior to placing an order against the account. Definitely you would do that. Prepayment flows, and there's various things that could trigger a login, right? So user triggers a login. Now, you see it says actor here. I can double click on it and change it to system. So I want the system to trigger the login for the actor. I don't want that actor, the user, in this case customer, going in and having to hunt and peck for login button or whatever. If login is required, you're going to be prompted to log in. So user is prompted for username and password. So user is prompted for UID PW, right? Hit enter. And then I want this to be machine. So I'm double clicking it and changing the step to machine. And then the user enters UID PW, right? And then that's the actor that's doing this. And then the credentials are matched against the system. So credentials are validated, right? And then it just hit enter. All right, so we've followed this. We've created a scenario. We want to create an extension. So login is not required. I could come up here, right here, and then create an exception or an alternate path. I'm not going to do it, right? Because of the time of this video. Access management is platform is done. So access management's process. It is an extension. There could be alternate. Credentials didn't match. Now down here, I need to throw an exception, right? So add an exception. Here I can add an alternate. We're going to throw an exception, right? And then this is credentials did not match. right? And then go ahead and hit enter, right? So now I have 5A, credentials didn't match. I could double click on this and I could actually step through the scenario and what's taking place for that. But in this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to double click back on basic path. And I have now stepped through my main success scenario within this use case. Now that we've created a summary level scenario, Sparx allows you to auto-generate activity diagrams. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to select activity diagram, and you can see it auto-generated this activity diagram. Now, there's nothing fancy about it. There's not decision. We don't have our exception handling, alternate, path flow gates and things like that. Very simple. I cover scenario builder in other videos, and I'll get more in depth with that as we progress. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And now if we hit Alt-G on this and we find this, you can see it has some elements that have been added thanks to the auto-generated activity. So I can double click, you can see the diagram right here. It's got a start and an end. So very quick and easy, right? And again, I'll get more into that as we're progressing. Double click this and bring it back. The next exciting thing is that you can do in the beginning of the project, you're listening requirements and you're building effective use cases, which is helping you to get better at listening requirements, helping the stakeholders understand what the delivery is. You can generate test cases. So in this case, what I'm going to do is an internal test case. So it generated a very simple login test case. And here's your test case over in the lower right. So it populates the test case for you. Here's the start and the expected results. And then eventually you get into building out during your test, what's the input criteria, what's the acceptance criteria, and the results. I'll cover that more in a later detailed video on scenarios and test cases and test validation and so on. But we just did all of that with a lot of automation, thanks to Sparx, from our simple outline in this use case. Now this intelligence travels with this use case throughout the company, through methods and procedures, through other projects, through other extensibility in Sparx, and all of this data is in a SQL database, which can be accessed for reporting and other uses. So the power of building effective use cases versus the use cases that we looked at before, and I don't want to pick on anybody. Either there's nothing under it, because a PowerPoint with a cute circle or ellipse, or it's a drawing tool. I'm not going to pick on any drawing tools that are out there. There's no intelligence underneath it. You spend a lot of time building intelligence around your models, and 6 months from the point that you created them, is that intelligence still readily available to the stakeholders for either one, continuous delivery, because after the project's over, login's not going away. Now you have an understanding of how login works within this system, within the context of this company or organization. Okay, we just covered about 4 days of course material in 30 minutes. And I know I went over it rather fast, probably missed some things that are important to you that you have questions on. I'll put chapters down below so that you can jump ahead, bookmark, and come back and look and as you're playing yourself. But I've shown you the difference between regular use cases and effective use cases. And effective use cases basically means that this use case or any use case you develop in an effective manner, like I've shown you today, is going to be an effective use of labor dollars, an effective use of time, an effective use of reuse of intelligence, which is the most important thing to me. And because Sparx puts this in a SQL database, you can imagine what, or at least a DBA can imagine, or a data architect can imagine, what you can do with your intelligence you just spent a great deal of time putting together in a project, whether it's a simple project or a complicated enterprise project, that can be used throughout the history of the company, because login's not going away, as I stated. And these other things, these use cases are going to be needed by case management, by legal, by security, by operations, by everyone. Now they're available from the beginning of any project all the way to the end of any business, venture, or maybe they're going to change how they do login, right? So login's going to last as long as you're doing login, right? Closing a customer's account is very critical to the company. We're not deleting the account, we're just closing the account. So there's privacy concerns, privacy data, if you're following European Union GDPR or anything in the United States, such as the California Privacy Act. This intelligence you spent time on is now available for you to deliver your business in the proper manner, the effective manner going forward. So thanks very much for watching this. Be more videos, post comments down below, good or bad, and let me know what you think, what other questions you have. I'll try to make videos on any gaps that you think you saw or felt in this particular video or in this series, because we started with part one, which was kind of an introduction to use cases. We got into good use cases. I mean, I would be happy to see those use cases if I went into an effort, but they're not effective. Into this is how you build effective use cases. Now these use cases are effective anywhere you go within your project and project delivery. Thanks again for watching. I'll talk to you all later. Happy modeling.